This film tells a group of survival people who are trapped in the apartment because of the zombie outbreak. The story begins to show that the Korean military is preparing to surround the zombie headquarters in the snowfall. Then a young man came out of a building that was almost collapsed, surrounded by zombies around him. The young man walked slowly as if he ignored the warning from the military. And finally, the rush of shots from the soldiers was directed at his body. But this young man continued to walk without fear of a scary look. Returning to the time when the virus began to spread, seen an apartment called Green Home, which was protested by residents due to dispute problems. A young man I named John walked alone with a blank gaze because of depression. John has lost his family in an accident and is now living alone. Suddenly, a broken grass-cutting knife and almost made him enter the hospital. It turned out that it was an apartment guard who then apologized because it was also an apartment that looked dirty because the officers were only himself. In the conversation, John will occupy one of the rooms that the officer happened to have been waiting and invited to enter. John has no purpose in life after losing his parents and plans to commit suicide from the roof of the apartment. Under-security officers were scolded by apartment managers because they often sleep during working hours. Then, one of the occupants gave a fishes while advising to carry out their obligations as officers. But after opening it, turned out that the fish in the cardboard had rotted, and suddenly, his nose had flowed so swiftly. Returning to John, who was going to jump beautifully from the roof of the building, he saw a girl who was really interesting to practice dancing ballet. Then, John canceled the event to go to hell. This girl named Lisa, she aspires to be a ballet dancer, but her ideals must run aground when an accident makes her legs injured. Lisa warned not to cause problems with suicide of this place, because it would be troublesome for all the residents of the apartment. When John returned to his room to see the officer was waiting to ask that John fill in the form as a new occupant, but John refused and would fill out the form later. After entering, John, seeing the officer was still waiting for him at the door, finally left after speaking to follow a woman inhabitant apartment. Moving other residents named Jisoo has a hobby of smoking and playing bass. Yoji has a dark past because his girlfriend killed suicide, makes his life chaotic and messy like his room. When going to leave, he met a woman carrying a baby stroller, but when Lisa looked down, there was no baby there, her scared. After that, a man named Jung was a Korean language teacher, was also very religious. He called the woman depressed because she had lost her child. Lisa has a sister named Liam, who quit medical college in order to pay for Lisa's school. They are not their siblings, and their relationships are also not very good. Moving to other occupants, a former gangster named Lee was seen holding someone hostage with the whole body. Either the problem between them, and certainly Lee, did not have a cigarette ashtray. Returning to John, who received a notification that he was successfully selected as a video game tester on August 25th, which coincided with the schedule to end his life. 1 week, John spent his time in the apartment by playing games and instant noodles that were not healthy, because according to him, he would also die soon. According to the instant noodle package schedule that he bought online, it will come today. Shortly, he got a message from the courier that the instant noodle package was placed in front of the door. But when he opened the door, he saw a scattered package that headed to his neighbor's room. Suddenly, a cat's head was thrown, surprised him. Then his hands full of blood trying to take the cat's head, scared to run into his room. John, who was scared to hear a woman's voice, asking to enter her room for fear of her place of blood, as well as her lost cat. John ventured to get closer to the door and speak through the video call, asking that the woman showed her arms. Suddenly, this woman became out of control, and her nose shed a lot of blood while beating the door of the room. Then, this woman became even more strange and left without saying goodbye. After a calm condition, John took the wood, ventured to come out, but he only found Lee, who was surprised by a lot of blood, and John finally fainted. Unexpectedly, the woman went to Jisu's room to beat the door of her room. Jisu thought this person was angry because it was disturbed by the guitar's voice, and it was seen that this woman had turned into a monster while screaming hungry and continued to hit the door of her room. Obviously, this girl became scared and then took the baseball beater, preparing to face unexpected things. Shortly, the conditions became quiet, and suddenly, Lee appeared, surprised him. Jisu told the incident experienced, and when Lee saw the window of thinking, the woman had jumped out. Under the apartment locked, while the security officer did not know where it was. Conditions are more complicated when the apartment residents' cell phones cannot be used because of the lost signals. Now they realize that now it has been confined in the apartment. Seeing a woman named Song-yi is a firefighter who is also a resident of the apartment, explaining that all doors are locked, including parking lots. He assumed that there was someone who deliberately did this. Then Song-yi entered the management room and asked for help by telephone apartment, and received information that the channel was busy. The old man who came in tried to press the button on the wall that he did not understand, which made the phone interrupted and some of the lights went dead. When going to leave, this old man found the main door switch and managed to open the door bars. But they realized that in front of the door, there was something strange. Seeing a tall figure with a scary condition silent, while they became curious and recorded it on Instagram. Until when the door bars really opened, they saw a terrible monster with a wide, open mouth, as well as the tongue that could elongate. And there was another mouth on the tip of his tongue, monster, to suck one of the residents of the apartment until his body became dry. In a chaotic condition, Liam immediately sprayed it with the extinguished tube gas, making the monster slowly backward, and Liam told the fearful old man to return to close the bars. Unfortunately, the gas began to run out, so Song-yi took the initiative to crash himself so that the monster away from the door of the bars that had begun to close. Liam tried to hold the door, while Song-yi ran back even though her leg was injured from a zombie attack. Both of them worked together to risk their lives and finally made it in. Fortunately, the tongue was still stuck in the bars, making the monster again pull his tongue and left with disappointment. Now, they are really safe and realize dealing with something terrible. Feeling the conditions are safe, the apartment residents come out of hiding and see that there are so many zombie monsters roaming out there. From inside John's room, saw the city had been destroyed and chaos there. Suddenly, blood flowed profusely from his nose, which indicated that John was infected and would soon become a monster.